chose to live with his godbrothers at the Gaudiya Sangha in Chetla, the same neighborhood his family lived in. Since he had no money, the head of the ashram bore his expenses. Abhay gave daily discourses on Srimad Bhagavatam, which the Gaudiya Sangha brahmacharis highly appreciated. Krishna Kumar Brahmachari. Even after he left, his sweet melodious voice would ring in my ears. He used to often express a desire to go abroad and preach. One of his sons was running a small business, Vimaltone Laboratory, and thus supporting the family. Abhay knew that his wife would not be interested in his work in Jhansi. His son had been there but had not been impressed. The family would see his preaching in Jhansi as a threat to their home life. Abhay, however, was sustaining himself by his vision, which is now taking practical shape, of a world reformed by Krishna consciousness. He even thought of opening a branch of the League of Devotees in Calcutta. So Srila Prabhupada was facing practical problems at this point in time, 1954. He had been given the same instructions 2 different times, years apart, by his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And the instruction was very simple, straightforward. Preach Krishna consciousness to the Western-speaking world. And a corollary to that, if you ever get money, print books. So this is 1954. It's 20 years after our Srila Prabhupada got this instruction the second time from his spiritual master. And so Srila Prabhupada has been preparing his entire lifetime to finally be at a point where he is able, not capable, but able to do something practical to fulfill the instruction and the desire of his spiritual master. But Srila Prabhupada is seeing here in his family life problems. So Satsvarupa Maharaj writes here, the family, Srila Prabhupada's family, would see his preaching in Jhansi as a threat to their home life. And we've seen this practically so many times. If one or the other of the spouse is interested in Krishna consciousness, but the other is not, it becomes a very difficult situation. To practice and cultivate spiritual life is in itself a great challenge. What to speak if your spouse is averse or against you doing it? It can become very difficult. And so Prabhupada was running into this practical problem. So Prabhupada said at one point, I don't recall where he said it, but he said that he had about, I forget the number, 12 or 14 people who were financially dependent upon him. His wife, his children, his employees at his business when he had a business, his servants for the family. So altogether it was about 12 or 14 people. And Srila Prabhupada was very responsible as a householder. And he did not want to just walk away and drop everything and leave those who were dependent on him without somebody to provide for them. But he's at a point in his life now, in this narration, where he's about ready to do that. So he was thinking about going back to Jhansi and trying once again to spread Krishna consciousness there. Satsvarupa Maharaj continues, but inevitably he was plunged again into family responsibilities. Some of his children were still unmarried. Rent and bills had to be paid. Even if he were to develop the Vimaltone laboratory, the family would demand whatever he earned, and even if he were to accede to their demands, live at home, and give up preaching, the greatest difficulty would still remain. They weren't serious about devotional service, nor could he change them. What was the use of conducting a business if they would not be devotees? Srila Prabhupada's concern was that he wanted some help from his family. He wasn't getting support from the Gaudiya Matha, though they weren't against him preaching, but he needed practical support. And being a family man and a former business owner, he previously had a source of income that he used for his preaching in Krishna consciousness, specifically in Jhansi, but also wherever else he happened to live. Srila Prabhupada never forgot the instruction that his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, gave him to preach in the West. And he was always looking for a practical means to be able to fulfill that instruction. Srila Prabhupada was nothing if not practical. He was always, he knew very well that you can't just have pie-in-the-sky ideas. You have to be able to understand in a very practical way how to execute the instructions and the mission. So he was very practical like that, and he was always looking for ways to do that. And here in this case, he needed money and assistance. And he was always hoping that his wife, Radharani Dey, would assist him in this. But we're going to hear very shortly what her actual attitude was. He visited his family, and the same old scene occurred. Local friends came to visit, and Abhay began preaching, giving Bhagavad Gita classes, just as he had been doing in Jhansi. Meanwhile, his wife and the rest of the family would take tea in a separate room. They wouldn't even come into the room where Prabhupada was preaching, giving Bhagavad Gita class. They would stay in another room of the house and just drink their tea. Srila Prabhupada speaking. I wanted as much as possible to get her to work with me in spreading Krishna consciousness, to get her help. But she was very determined. She wouldn't help me in spreading Krishna consciousness. So finally, after many years, I could understand she would not be of any assistance to me. What a realization to have, that your spouse, who is supposed to be your life partner, has no interest in helping you in your Krishna consciousness. This is not that unusual. Srila Prabhupada continues, she was very attached to drinking tea. I was always telling her not to drink tea because I wanted to have a nice Vaishnava family. So although I was repeatedly telling her, this time I finally said, you have to choose between me and tea. Either the tea goes or I go. In this way, I was even criticizing my own family. But because they were thinking I was the husband or father, they couldn't take my instructions seriously. So she replied, giving up tea drinking or giving up my husband? Well, I will have to give up my husband then. Of course, she thought I was joking. One day Radharani made a great mistake. There is a system of barter in which a customer would place on a scale an object a shopkeeper considered valuable, and the shopkeeper would then balance it with an equal weight of merchandise. So while Abhay was out, his wife took his worshipable Bhagavatam to the market and traded it for tea biscuits. When Abhay came home and looked for the book, she told him what had happened. She hadn't taken the matter as a very serious thing. She was out of tea biscuits. But Abhay was shocked. At first he felt depressed, but then a wave of absolute resolution passed over him. His family life was finished. Put yourself in this situation. Imagine this happening to you. That your japa beads, or your scripture, your spouse just traded them. for something as significant as tea biscuits. It would be devastating. I mean, just devastating. And it shook Srila Prabhupada to his very core. That one act just solidified his determination, and it helped to bring him to a single focus of mind. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita as it is, who did he dedicate his Bhagavad Gita as it is to? Who did he dedicate it to? And what verse was the dedication based on? Anybody remember? Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana bahusaka hyanantasya buddhyo vyavasayanam. Those who are on this path of Krishna consciousness, what's the English? Remember the English? And they're completely focused, they're very fixed. Their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus. They're not, their intelligence is not going here, there, the next place. They have a single focus. All of their life energy is focused on this particular goal. Just like, I don't know what kind of lights these are, I can't really see, but you know what an incandescent light bulb is, the old-fashioned light bulb. Suppose you have a 100-watt light bulb, an incandescent light bulb. They are so inefficient that of the 100 watts of electricity that's being consumed, 95 watts goes in heat. It's just wasted as heat. And only 5% of the electrical energy goes into producing actual light. It's just scattered everywhere, everywhere. And you get a very, very small percentage, in this example, 5%, that actually serves the function, the purpose of what you wanted to do, to provide some light. On the other end of that spectrum, you have laser. Laser. And a laser, the light coming from a laser is extremely focused. A 100-watt laser, it's the same amount of energy as a 100-watt incandescent light bulb, but a 100-watt laser can cut through paper, can cut through wood, can actually cut things, you can burn things up. Because it's totally focused on a single point. And that laser can go a long distance, and when it gets 100 yards away, it's still a tiny little bead of light, because it's focused. So in that verse from Bhagavad Gita 241, Krishna is talking about that we have to have a single point of focus in our determination to become Krishna conscious. We can't just be everywhere and anywhere. And Srila Prabhupada was like that. He was really focused. He remembered the instructions from his spiritual master, always. He never forgot that. He was not always able to act upon it, but he never forgot it. And he utilized all of his life's energy to try to accomplish and fulfill that instruction of his spiritual master. And we see in this part of the Leela that Srila Prabhupada was hoping that his wife would help him in spreading Krishna consciousness. But what does she do? Satyaru Maharaj is very broad-minded when he said she made a big mistake. Well, that's putting it very mildly. She made a humongous mistake, which I'm sure she regretted afterwards, at least for a little while, when she took Srila Prabhupada's Srimad Bhagavatam and traded it for tea biscuits. When he told them he was leaving, they didn't understand what he meant. He'd been leaving for 30 years. He was always coming and going. When he walked out the door, they thought, there he goes again. He's leaving. It was the usual routine. Everyone could see, even the neighbors, Mr. D was going again. He had been at home, now he was going. He would be back again, but Abba knew he was never coming back. Srila Prabhupada speaks. Before leaving my family, I wanted to get all my sons and daughters married, but some of them disagreed. But then, the time is up. Never mind whether they are married or not. Let them see to their own business. Suppose I die immediately. Who will take care of my daughter? At that time, we say, God will take care. Okay, then why not now? God will take care. My Guru Maharaj used to say that renunciation of family life was, quote, civil suicide, end quote. If you commit suicide, that is criminal. But that renunciation of family is voluntarily committing suicide. Now I am dead. Whatever you like, you may do. Krishna says, Sarva Dharma Parityaja, give up all religion. So family is Griha Dharma, the religion of the family. But Krishna says, give that up. But that attachment is there. And if we say that feeling of attachment has to be given up gradually, then that we cannot do, because the attachment is there. But if God will take care of them, if I die immediately, then why not now? This is Prabhupada's thinking. That, common knowledge that, when I die, Krishna will take care of everything, everyone. So Prabhupada just moved that forward. That why wait till I die? I'm going to commit civil suicide, so to speak, and leave my family and eventually take sannyas. And then God will still provide, He will still take care of them. So his mind could be detached from family, wouldn't have to be concerned about family, and he wouldn't have to be concerned that they were not being provided for, and his mind and intelligence was not split. Okay, this side of me has to is performing devotional service, but this side of me has to take care of my family. No, Prabhupada saw that they were not going to assist him. They did not care about his goal and mission in life. They were only looking for themselves. And Srila Prabhupada saw that very clearly and just washed his hands entirely of his family connection and his family affairs. And in that way, he was able to devote himself 100% to fulfilling the instructions of his spiritual master. That doesn't mean it was going to be easy, though. His spiritual emotions were so turbulent that he wasn't thinking of going to Jhansi. He wanted to take a train to anywhere. Then he remembered some old godbrother friends who were living in an ashram in Jhargram, only a short train ride south of Calcutta. So he borrowed 10 rupees from a friend and bought a ticket to Jhargram. It was a small mutt. When Abhay arrived, he was welcomed by Paramahamsa Maharaj, Damodar Maharaj, and others. Paramahamsa Maharaj had been present when Abhay had first met Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, and he remembered Abhay as he had looked then, dressed in white khadi, looking like a Gandhian anarchist. I like that phrase. Gandhian anarchist. Abhay explained to him, I couldn't fulfill my family's needs, so now let me preach the message of Lord Chaitanya. Abhay told him how his business had failed, now he had willingly left his family and was now destitute. Just try to understand that. So Prabhupada, as a family man, very responsible, he was very accomplished at earlier stages of his life. So Prabhupada later said that if he had wanted to, he could have been a very successful businessman. Could have been very successful. but he was inclined to and wanted to serve the Gaudiya Math and serve his spiritual master. At the same time, he also wanted to take care of his family responsibly, but he saw which way the wind was blowing, so to speak. He saw which way the tide was going, and that his family just had no inclination and did not want to support him at all. And Srila Prabhupada tried his best to do both. But when he saw what his wife did by trading his Bhagavatam for tea biscuits, that was just, we have an expression in America, the straw that broke the camel's back. You don't see this in America, but I certainly see it here, that farmers will take their camel, I've seen it so many times on the road between here and Delhi, and they'll pile straw on top of the back of the camel. So much so that you can barely even see there's an animal. You see 4 legs, but that's about it. And the expression is that they want to put more and more and more straw on the back of the animal, and finally the one straw that they put on the top is too much and the camel's back is broken. So it's the straw that broke the camel's back. So in his family life, that straw that broke his attachment to his family was his wife trading his Srimad Bhagavatam. And it just really, really changed his entire perspective and outlook towards his family. Paramahansa Maharaj speaking. When Abhay arrived, he appeared very poor, even starving. He had no means. He came alone to the mutt, and when he arrived, he only chanted Hare Krishna, nothing else. Abhay spent his time in Jargram, chanting the holy name and becoming settled in detachment from his family. For several days he chanted japa almost continuously. Paramahansa Maharaj would lecture in the evenings, and then Abhay would also speak on Bhagavad Gita. But as time passed, his thoughts turned again to Jhansi, and he soon felt ready to go back to the League of Devotees. He had to secure the buildings and go on with the preaching. But before returning, he obtained a large deity of Lord Chaitanya that he planned to install at the Bharati Bhavan. Ironically, he had gone to Calcutta to do business and raise money for his preaching, but now he had no money, he had no business, and he had no family responsibilities. Sometimes we see in our own lives, but we want to do something, and Krishna's just, no, you can't do that, no, you can't do that, no, you can't do this. And it's said that one of the ways that the Lord bestows His mercy upon His devotees is He takes away everything that we're attached to. And it's not simply, a material attachment in the sense that, I really, really want this. So Prabhupada had a great sense of responsibility towards his family members, his wife, his sons, his daughters, the servants. Well, he didn't have any employees at this time, but he was very responsible. He didn't want to just walk away and just, to heck with you all. But sometimes the Lord, He will take everything away from us so that we can only be dependent upon Him. Anybody have that happen, even to a small degree? 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're being honest here. At first, it can be really scary, isn't it? The things that we were dependent upon to maintain our life, to maintain our responsibilities, to maintain whatever our attachments were, all of a sudden, part of it, another part of it is gone. And sometimes all of it is gone. And then where do we turn, or who do we turn to for shelter? And Krishna does this so that we'll ultimately turn to Him. So that we'll turn our attention, we'll turn our life energy, our intelligence, our mind, all of our senses, and all of our activities towards Krishna. Like, dear Lord, why did you do this to me? And it's not that we're saying in a, no, we're just trying to understand, Krishna, why did you do this? I'm trying to fulfill the instruction of my spiritual master. I'm trying to take care of my family responsibly. I need these things and those things in order to do this. At least that's my understanding. And yet one by one, you took them all away. Why are you doing this? It's so that we will become closer to Krishna. So that we will see, actually, Krishna's in control. I'm not in control. Like stated a page earlier, that there is an expression in Bengal, when I die, God will take care of everything. And Prabhupada's, okay, well, then now He can take care of everything. It's like that. So sometimes the Lord does like that, so that we become attached to Him and Him only. Not Him and this and that and this and that. No, Krishna, in this regard, we can say that He's very jealous. He wants all of our attention, all of our energy, all of our focus. He wants it on Him. Why? Does He need our money? Does He need our service? Does He need our attention? No. Krishna's Atmaram. He doesn't need anything. Completely self-satisfied. But He wants these things because He wants to draw us closer to, what's the word? So that our love and our life energy will gradually or quickly go only to Him. Not because He's jealous. He does that so that our loving sentiment and loving relationship with Him will reawaken. And as our love for Him becomes stronger and stronger, He gives more and more love and affection to us. As they approach me, I reciprocate accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects. If we take one step towards Krishna, He takes more than one step towards us. If we give Him 1% of our life, He accepts that, He encourages it, He fans that spark, so that spark will become a flame, and the flame will become a fire, and the fire will consume all of our life energy. So that the only thing we want to do is serve the Supreme Lord through the agency of our spiritual master. So Srila Prabhupada, on this stage of his life, he's getting to that point. Abai did not adopt the saffron dress of a vanaprastha, but continued wearing a white dhoti and kurta. The people of Jhansi had always known him as a preacher with no family, ever since he had first arrived a year and a half before. Now he was returning to them with the deity of Lord Chaitanya and a determination to establish Lord Chaitanya's temple in Jhansi. Abai met with a warm welcome from Acharya Prabhakar and others, but he also met with competition for possession of the Radha Memorial. It began with a Sanskrit conference, the Bundelkhand Sanskrit Sammelan, which brought to Jhansi the governor of the province, K.M. Munshi, and his wife, Lilavati. An active social organizer, Lilavati Munshi, had opened several branches of Mahila Samiti Sangha, a society that aimed at socially uplifting women by teaching them secretarial skills and English. Two educated Jhansi ladies, Chandramukhi and Suryamukhi, wanted such a woman's social program for Jhansi, and they took the opportunity to approach Lilavati Munshi during her visit. She inspired them, and they began to talk about where in Jhansi they could open one of her social centers. Perhaps, suggested one of the ladies, the Bharati Bhavan could be used. Although Suryamukhi Sharma had been one of the sympathizers who had first approached Mr. Bhayal on behalf of Abhay Day and asked that he be given the Bharati Bhavan for his League of Devotees, she felt that the ladies' cause was more important, and she knew that Abhay's ownership of the buildings was not settled. The woman agreed that the buildings would be an excellent facility for the Mahila Samiti Sangha branch, and that their cause was more urgent than Abhay Charan's cause. This is the nature of trying to preach in the material world. Srila Prabhupada commented on this. He said, introducing spiritual affairs in the material world is not an easy proposition, because the material energy is always fighting with the spiritual energy, trying to push it away, to overrule the spiritual energy.
Hare Krishna. So I will just share the presentation on the introduction of Gaura Shakti Prabhu. So His Grace Gaura Shakti Prabhu. Gaura Shakti Prabhu was born and brought up in United States, and from a very young age he was very thoughtful and inquisitive about life and spirituality. About his first contact with Krishna consciousness, he first learned about the Hare Krishna devotees through an article, and he was deeply struck by the simplicity of the devotees' lifestyle at the Minneapolis Center, living without furniture and sleeping on the floor. This simplicity left a strong impression on his heart. About meeting the devotees and Srila Prabhupada's books. In 1971, while studying at the University of Minnesota, he physically met devotees for the first time. He received Srila Prabhupada's book, Krishna, the Reservoir of All Pleasure. He was especially attracted by the beautiful picture of Krishna on that cover, and thus his spiritual life began. About deepening faith through Bhagavad Gita, in 1972, he met Sankirtan devotees in Brooklyn. He purchased Bhagavad Gita for $2.65. After carefully reading the Bhagavad Gita, he felt deeply inspired and convinced about Krishna consciousness. And in 1973, he attended the first Sunday Love Feast lecture at ISKCON Temple. And that program had deeply attracted him with kirtan, philosophy, and prasadam. And during 1973-74, he received his first darshan of Prabhupada during the Rath Yatra festival. About joining ISKCON full-time, in 1974, during Janmashtami, he joined ISKCON New Vrindavan as a full-time devotee. He embraced devotional life with enthusiasm and determination. About his inspiration, His Grace Gaur Shakti Prabhu's journey shows how sincere contact with devotees and Srila Prabhupada's books can transform a heart. His steady service inspires others to take shelter of the holy name and remain faithful to devotional service. Actually, there is not much information about Gaur Shakti Prabhu on the internet. So I just got this information. I personally asked Prabhuji. So Prabhuji is just so humble that he doesn't want to tell anyone. And he said that, my journey is so humble that I don't want to share how I joined in Krishna consciousness. It's all by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and assembled Vaishnavas. So he's a very simple, very humble devotee. Even Prabhuji was in Ujjain till this morning. He left to Vrindavan this morning. So it was so amazing to witness him, that how humbly he was serving. Even I just witnessed that from past few days, that in Ujjain when Prabhuji was there, even when a small kid would offer him obeisances, he would pay back him obeisances in return. He's just so humble, and you won't realize that he's a Prabhupada disciple. He will sit next to you like a normal person and chanting. He will sit next to you in a class. And then later, if someone tells you that he's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and then you will be realizing, oh Krishna, he's just so simple. So it was so amazing to have association of Prabhuji around us. I would like to request Maharaj if he would like to share something about Gaur Shakti Prabhuji. So even this morning, I was fortunate to uh, be with Prabhu for an hour or so. I went to the airport to drop Prabhuji, Gaur Shakti Prabhu. He was such an amazing Vaishnava that, at each and every point he was glorifying all the Vaishnavas at ISKCON Ujjain, how wonderfully they are serving, how they are keeping the mood of Sri Srimad Bhakti Swami Maharaj preserved in ISKCON Ujjain. And he was so humbly telling and sharing things, and he was also asking details about me. And he was saying that, it's been so fortunate to stay in such a temple and serve where, personally, we have been taught by such exemplary devotees. So it's such an amazing, uh, I wouldn't say coincidence, but it's a merciful situation that I got into to serve such an amazing Vaishnava. So in case if you get Prabhuji's association, please make sure he's an amazing Vaishnava and just so humble, so deeply grounded that I personally realize that, by having association of such Vaishnavas, we will surely be getting uplifted in our spiritual lives. I'd like to request Maharaj to share something about Gaur Shakti Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Uh, his Gaura Shakti was a very senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada, also very close friend of Shishant Bhakti Swami Guru Maharaj. I know him from the very beginning of my life. He used to come to Guru Maharaj and Guru Maharaj treated him so nicely. Guru Maharaj used to take prasad with him. And very pure-hearted person, very philosophically deep. And we see the Prabhupada's disciples are so humble. All Prabhupada's disciples, most important quality, they are sold out to Srila Prabhupada and very humble. This two most important quality of all Srila Prabhupada disciples. Especially, it shows that if we want to survive long time in Krishna consciousness, these two things are important. Fully surrendered to spiritual master and humble. Like when they pay obeisances to it, like in our Ujjain, when he pay obeisances, all the 5 altars, he paid Srila Prabhupada. When he come in front of Krishna, Namam Vishnu Pada Krishna Srimad Bhakti Swami. Again Krishna Ballam, Namam Vishnu Krishna. Every day only Prabhupada Pranam Mantra. So their relationship with Lord through their spiritual master. They are fully sold out to. So many disciples like that. I asked Guru Maharaj, I saw Srila Prabhupada disciple, and they pay Prabhupads, not to the deity Pranam Mantra. So which one is right? Guru was taking prasad that day. Guru Maharaj took a pause, then he said, it is okay. So that means when you see Krishna, you should see spiritual master serving him. And when you see spiritual master, you see he is always serving in Krishna. So there is no difference. Okay, thank you, Krishna Kirtan Prabhu. You are so dedicatedly continuing this service. Unfortunately, I cannot attend every day. Thank you very much. Hari.
Jai His Grace Gaur Shakti Prabhu Ji ki jai. Jagat Guru Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Jagannatha Bhakti Prema Swami Maharaj ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.